Hello, my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. Well, this is somewhat of a whiteboard lesson. Yes or no? I've got a book in front of me. I'm not writing anything out. And I'd like to talk to you about karma and your soul life purpose and how to change your karma. We've talked about this many times using the chakra and balancing your chakras out, right? If you live for the body, you unbalance your mind, and if you live for the mind, you unbalance the body. And the what you want to do is have everything balanced out so that your heart chakra, which is your soul, which is love, kindness, is what's guiding you, and then that clears up some of your karma. And I've talked about this before. There was a few questions there, and I thought about them, and I thought, yeah, this needs to be addressed. So for the first part, your heart chakra, and when I talk about kindness, it does not mean to be a doormat. Kindness starts with kindness to yourself. So, like they say, charity begins at home, so does kindness. If somebody's being rude to you or ignorant to you, you do not have to put up with it. It's not kindness to put up with that. It's detrimental to yourself, and that's not being kind. What's being kind to yourself is doing things that bring you pleasure and happiness. So if it brings you a lot of pleasure and happiness to hold a door open for somebody, if it brings you a lot of pleasure and happiness to let somebody in traffic in front of you, brings you a lot of love and happiness, and to make a beautiful dinner for your family. Perhaps it's to bring somebody a coffee. I mean, these don't have to be monster moves. You don't have to give somebody $10,000, or every time they ask you for a loan, you give it to them thinking I have to give it to them out of kindness. No, kindness, like charity, begins at home. And when you start making choices that are kind to you, to your heart, to your soul, your karma will balance itself out. So are you being kind to yourself when all you do is watch Netflix for 10 hours and you don't go for a walk? Or are you being kind to yourself, giving grueling, 1 hour cardiac appointment or exercise every day, 7 days a week, 5 o'clock in the morning? Are you being kind to yourself? Right? So to be kind to yourself and love yourself first, that's the kindest thing you can do, without being selfish, without being a narcissist, because that then you go into you unbalance the other chakras. So what I want to talk to you about today is, if you want to have the best karma, have an ordinary life. You don't create any karma. You balance out your other karma. And what's an ordinary life? That doesn't mean boring. It doesn't mean, driving to the same office for, 9 to 5 at a boring job. Is that being kind to yourself? No. It's what is kind to you. Do you feel like, you just need a little house? You just love to have your own apartment. Maybe you do want a big house, and that makes your heart sing. It brings you a lot of joy to have a beautiful home that you decorate and you can be proud of. Maybe that's your ordinary life. Maybe your ordinary life is to be a homemaker. Maybe your ordinary life is just to be a painter and you make just enough to pay the bills, and you're happy with that. You aren't creating any karma for yourself at all by doing what makes your heart sing, which is different than your life purpose. You have no idea how many people ask me for a reading, what's my life purpose? You have no idea. And your life purpose is to have an ordinary life. Now, if you have a talent for playing piano, perhaps your ordinary life is to be a piano player at a jazz bar. Perhaps it is to become that star, to become the next Elton John, right? Maybe that's your ordinary life. It doesn't sound ordinary to you or me, but it might be ordinary to that person. It's ordinary right? You think of the royals, it's ordinary to be famous and everybody take your picture. It's ordinary to dress in beautiful designer clothes and go to charity. That's their ordinary life. They think our life is not ordinary, right? So you can't judge what another person's ordinary life is. Perhaps an ordinary life is maybe something like our grandparents. You get married, you have children, you get the golden watch and the retirement package, you play, you got your grandchildren, and off you go into never ever land. But you've paid your bills on time, you've accumulated a few little assets, you can leave your family a little bit of money. Maybe that's all they want, an ordinary life, but they have not accumulated any karma. They have, and they've rectified a lot of their own karma by keeping a balance. So let's go into this a little bit more. How do you have an ordinary life? So this book here, this is my go-to, my color energy go-to when we're talking chakras. The only thing I don't like is it's not on the ground. Oh, that I don't know why that bothers me. It's like, just put the red one at the ankles where it belongs. All right, so, the root center, let's just go chakra by chakra. And the different centers, I'm going to tell you what the greatest need and the greatest challenge is, and you can tell if you're unbalanced in that. All right. So the root chakra is the right to have. The right to survive is the most important aspect of the red center energy center. Food, clothing, shelter, heat, medical aid, and physical contact are among the most important things in life. Concern with these basics is the primary part of the red energy, and it will always seek a way to best satisfy these needs. If it does not succeed on the positive side, the negative side will react. All right. So that's with all your chakras, right? So if you do not address the positive aspect of that chakra, it will revert to the negative side. So what's the positive? Physical contact, strong physical activity. The greatest challenge is planning before action and being susceptible to feelings. All right. So the red root here, when you don't act with that physical contact and that strong physical activity, what happens? Well, if you don't move your body, it becomes obese or you get health problems. When you think about it, especially in the blood, that's your high cholesterol, heart problems, like, right, red, if you don't move your body. Now, also the physical contact and the planning before action and being susceptible to feelings, here's where you get into the assaults on people where they don't want it, right? So you get, a physical contact that is impulsive, that hurts another person. And what did I say? I tell you, you accumulate the strongest, worst karma when you hurt somebody else. So when you do not have the basic survivals, the basic proper foods to eat, you're not looking after your body, you're not challenging your body in any way, that energy has to come out somewhere. And unfortunately, it comes out, this planning before action just means impulsive, right? And being susceptible to feelings, that means your feelings are horny, right? And you start violating other people's right to their own body. I'm dancing around the words, right? I have to. I've got a couple of warning shots from YouTube. And that's just showing you what's balanced, what's unbalanced. Balance is having a home that you feel comfortable in, an ordinary home to you. Maybe it is a mobile home. Maybe it is a McMansion. Maybe it is just a regular 3-bedroom bungalow. But what's ordinary to you? Don't judge what other people have. Where do you feel the most comfortable? What's ordinary food to you? You know what? Do you like to eat the same foods every day? Eat them. Who cares? That's what's ordinary to you. And once you scratch that itch of what's ordinary to you, everything else will fall in place, right? If you just want a little 2 bedroom, we call them wartime homes here in Canada. They're just the cutest little homes. They're just, just enough, just all what you need. And we call them wartime homes because they were built during the war when we didn't have as much resources because everything went to the World War II effort. And they honestly are the cutest little homes. Like, they'd be perfect for, just a couple or in retirement, not much to clean. To me, they would be perfect, right? Other people might think that's way too small. But to me, then my needs are all met. I've got a kitchen, I have a living room, I have a bedroom, and I have a washroom. What more do I need? Right? Other people might be suffocated by that. So that's why I want to tell you, for you to live your ordinary life. All right. Now, also, what brings you that survival? That's kind of your job, your career. So you have to match up. What's ordinary to that? So if you want a big McMansion, you can't be working at McDonald's unless you own the McDonald's, right? So if that's ordinary to you to have a great big home, that's something that you want. You don't have to explain to other people why you want it. That's up between you and your heart, your soul. Then you have to figure out the ordinary way to get it. By ordinary way, you don't steal it, you don't take it from somebody else. You don't cheat the builder out of it. The ordinary way to get that is to work towards something that you could afford a home like that. And when you can afford the home like that, you can also afford to buy your food, to clothe yourself, to heat it, right? So just think that's just ordinary karma. You're just here to live an ordinary life, whatever that means to you. Some people don't mind having a big mortgage, other people can't stand it. They need their house paid off. Well, what do you have to do to get there? Or being an ordinary person, doing ordinary things, not invoking any more karma. All right? A lot of people invoke a lot of bad karma with their root chakra, and it's because of that greatest need of physical contact. If you aren't getting it from your spouse, you go look elsewhere for it, and now you've hurt another person and you've invoked some karma on yourself. All right? So you have to think, what would be the ordinary way to fix that? Well, talk, go to marriage counselors. I hope I'm starting to understand what I mean by an ordinary life. All right. So the orange, which is interesting because in this book it's sex, it's creation. This one should be where the red one is, and the red one should be by your ankles. Never forget that. Okay. So I just find that interesting. They call the sacral chakra, and it has to do with sex, but it's up by your belly button. Well, I don't have sex in my belly button. I mean, you might. That's your kink, but mine is quite normal. So, anyways. It's the creative chakra. And this is the right to feel. Accusations like shame on you, you have no right to be angry, are very hard on orange energy. And it does not like to be told what to feel. It is very hard for the orange energy to know what it wants to do if it's not allowed to feel. The greatest need is to be respected and acknowledged, especially by family and friends. The greatest challenge is to achieve a deeper contact with oneself and to be oneself to give love to others. So that's the creative, right? A lot of couples who have hard time getting pregnant it's the deep contact that they are missing in this. So, how to be respect and knowledge. But it's interesting that shame lives in this chakra. And there's a lot of shame around sex, a lot. And whether, whether it's brought on by religion or whether it's brought on by somebody forcing themselves on you, by whether it's brought on who you love, there's a lot of shame around the orange or the sacral chakra. And it all has to do with sex, with being. There's so much shame around that. So how do you live an ordinary life around that? Well, number one is you don't use sex for love. right? You don't over abuse your sexual organs. Um, Now, if you've been violated, how do you get out of that shame? Well, part of it is by working through it and not drinking it till you, or using drugs or drinking or, shaming other people. That's a horrific thing that's happening in that, um, you get violated by somebody who else was violated. It's a chain that really needs to be broken. So, what do you do to create ordinary out of something so horrific? Is by doing what you can to get over it rather than pushing it down with alcohol or drugs or abusing other people or even abusing yourself by being promiscuous, um, doing dangerous things, uh, that kind of thing. So that's, and some people might think, well, sex life or an ordinary sex life is boring. It doesn't have to be. Again, that's a bit of shame coming into that. You can have a very lively sex life that is loving, that doesn't interfere with anybody else's karma. And actually, sex without love is very damaging to your soul. Just look in the eyes of a prostitute. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Um, Abusing your body like that is so hard on your health. And what's interesting is that whether you are male or female and you're oversexed like that, it's very difficult for them to have any intimate kind of relationships. And it's because you pick up on that energy. You pick up on um, just their bad juju around there. You need to be, and I think, uh, as long as you have loving adults, doing consensual. Did I just make up a consensual? Uh, you're having a beautiful, ordinary sex life that will create no bad karma, that will clean up some karma. Uh, um, and this is how you live an ordinary life that is peaceful, is happy, and that's your purpose, to live an ordinary life. And I know not a lot of people like to hear that. So the solar plexus is actually where your belly button is, and this is where the life force comes into you. And as you notice, when you're born, it's cut, and you have your first breath, and your spirit comes in through that way. And so that is the right to act. You are trained to obey and submit to authority from childhood. Parents who use their power to raise good children and teachers or other authorities who demand blind obedience block the yellow child's personal willpower and the ability to express themselves freely. The greatest need to live in an organized world where everything is orderly and disciplined, to be an intellectual individualist, and to understand what is read or studied. The greatest challenge is to follow one's heart and to work without conflicts. And if you've watched my other ones, it's because your soul comes in through the solar plexus, through the sun, and moves up into your heart, right? So that's the greatest challenge, to follow one's heart. That means there's a block between your solar plexus and your heart where your soul actually settles and lives. Comes in through your belly button, up and lives up into your heart. All right. So, how the greatest need is to live in an organized world where everything is orderly and disciplined. What is happening in our world right now? It's not orderly, it's not disciplined. There's two-tiered laws out there. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Our world, it's like they took us all took a bunch of ants in a jar and shook it up. And we are all suffering from it. The people who are coming into our country don't know what's going on. They don't understand the rules and regulations, which might be different from the country that they came from. The people who are living there don't understand these new people. Don't they understand our rules and regulations? And everybody is upset about it. It's all upset in the solar plexus part, in the survival part, in the body part of our lives. All right, because our survival is in question. Right, when you're being taxed to death to support other people, that affects your own survival. People are starting to get angry about that. They're starting to get angry because people are the cancel culture being shut down to be an intellectual individualist. You can't be a thinker. You can't have your own thoughts anymore. You get canceled. You get called names. You get called all sorts of things. You have to, it's groupthink. It's groupthink. And it's all in these bottom chakras that are being affected. Our survival is being affected. You cannot communicate with somebody reasonably when their survival is affected. You think, that's why, like when your house is on fire, or have you ever seen, like, after a brutal home fire and the whole house is burnt down, people are standing there and they've got like just the weirdest remnant. And they go, I don't know why I grabbed this. It would be like a leather belt. I should have grabbed my granny's teacup. And like they just kind of you all you're thinking of is survival, and you're grabbing things rather than communicating with your brain, going, oh my God, you know what? Grab granny's rings on the way out, or you know what I mean? Like you're just in survival mode. When you're hungry, try and communicate with somebody who's hungry. Like it's just like, can I just eat first? That's why it's called hangry, right? So when the bottom part here, and we can see right here what's happening in our society, what's happening in our society. To understand what is read or studied, look at all the misunderstandings that are done now through text or social posting, or it is all upside down. To work without conflicts, like you have to be so scared what you say at work, and there's all these new rules and regulations, and um, you know and you can't follow one's heart when you've got all these rules and regulations, and you're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to say that. And a lot of them are great, they're fantastic, we needed something like that, but I think they've really gone overboard. And I mean, to be fired because you don't want to put your pronouns in an email, or you don't want to acknowledge somebody's pronouns, and you lose your job. That's all. It's all in here. The yellow solar plexus center. All right, so let's get to the heart one, the green center, the right to love and be loved. People need to love. Emotional blockages arise when people are exposed to racial discrimination, cultural barriers, and war. These things block love out. Furthermore, the heart chakra can simply close if you do not receive enough love as a child or an adult. The greatest need to feel protected, to love and be loved, to have hidden resources. I bet you didn't realize that one. The greatest challenge, to love without reservations, to control greed, and to be able to control fear and insecurity. Well, greed and fear and insecurity all live down here. So to be able to control that, to balance that out. Now, to love without reservation means to love yourself first, right? So, like I say, you have your boundaries up. You do what helps you do ordinary things with kindness. Cook a great meal for people you love. Hold a door open. Say thank you to the waiter. To all those small little things of kindness. Those ordinary things. You don't have to do great kindness, great love, to have a heart filled with love, right? And what's that song? If you can't be with the ones you love the ones you're with. That's another thing. As when grief is just love that has nowhere to land, right? That's right. Your heart is breaking. Your love is breaking. Someone leaves, and now you have all this love that you've created. Remember, love is created on earth. It doesn't come from God. That's a big misconception as well. God wants to experience love through you on earth. And the greatest love you can give God is loving yourself because you are God. That was really deep. Did you get that? The greatest love you can give is loving yourself so that God can experience that love because he is God. And God is created, and love is created on earth. So that's the part of the problem with the heart chakra is that people don't realize you have to love yourself first and at the most. Be kind to yourself first, but without being selfish, without being selfish, which is down here in the right, taking more food than you need, buying a bigger home than you need, buying 2 boats, having 6 cars, right, cheating a coworker out of something. That's all greed. That all lives down here. Narcissism lives up here in the mind, right? Down here is hedonism. Hedonism, narcissism. Hedonism, having too much sex, having hurting someone else with sex, drinking too much, eating too much. Gluttony lives down here. Up here is narcissism, hedonism, and the heart has to balance this all out, and it balances it all out with love, with self-love, with ordinary love. Looking yourself in the mirror and saying, "You are fantastic. I love you. I know you're doing your best." Not narcissism. You're the most beautiful. You're heart attack beautiful, right? Oh my God, I need to get my lips done. Oh my God, I need more Botox. Oh my God, I need, right? Just love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Is modifying your body in all that way being kind to yourself? Just throwing it out there. All right. The Blue Throat Center, the right to talk and live in truth. This is a big one. Messages such as "do not talk like that" or "calm down if you are angry" stop us from expressing our feelings. This suppression of feelings can lead to closing up of the throat chakra. Our throat chakra will also close when we have to listen to family lies or keep secrets we do not wish to keep. Our greatest need to live an ideal life. That's an ordinary life. To be surrounded by beauty and peace, to have control over one's mental abilities. The greatest challenge, to live more spontaneously, to take more risks, to find the truth about oneself instead of finding faults in others, right? Complaining. It's amazing how much your life improves once you stop complaining. Either quit complaining or do something about it. You only have 2 choices. So quit complaining about the government or do something about it. Run for office or move. You're not a tree, you can move. But every time you complain about taxes or complain about the government, you're a victim. So either stop complaining about it, accept it for what it is, or do something about it. Run for office to change things, or support the person who you think will change things, or move to where you think the taxes are better or the government is better. You complain about, "Oh, I'm so fat." Like, is that fun? Is that kind? Is that loving of yourself? "Oh, I'm so fat." Well, you have 2 choices. Either stop complaining about it, accept it for what you are, or do something about it. Whatever that is, go on a diet, whatever your doctor tells you to do. And that is that is living an ordinary life. It's not doing, something extraordinary. If you go punish yourself into, 2-hour gym routines every day, 7 days a week, well, you're unbalancing that as well, right? Or going on very strict, diets that's unbalancing it as well. That's all living down here in the body part. complaining about it is living up here. So either do something about it, take action, or just communicate better, more loving thoughts to yourself about it. Those are your only two things. All right. So again, live what's an ordinary life living with communication. It's not allowing people to shut you up. You're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to speak the truth. And if you're around people who won't allow that, then instead of complaining about it, go find people who allow you to talk your truth. Without getting into hive mind, because that's another problem. If you only listen to people who only say things that you want to hear, that's also a problem. That's where you kind of need. That's what communication is. One person talks, one person listens. They bounce ideas back and forth through each other. And when you don't, when you think you're right, everybody else is wrong, now you're getting into the narcissism part of this. Also, is that loving yourself, putting yourself into a cage of what you believe, or, it's me or them, or, um, I'm not going to say anything, or I'm going to say everything, right? Black and white thinking. Is that being kind to yourself? Or is that just something that, it's not worth fighting about? Do you have any control over it? All right. So again, the blue chakra, when that's really balanced, that's when you lead your ideal life, your ordinary life. You aren't, a big shot on X, or, you don't have 1 million followers on YouTube. Right? You don't have to do that to balance that out. It says speak respectful, and when people aren't being respectful for you, leave the room. And that's just really ordinary, isn't it? And I find it fascinating how we have forgotten what ordinary is. And we have forgot to honor ordinary. Right? We forgot to, you look back in The Simpsons, or Married with Children, he was a shoe salesman. Sure, he had his issues in his family, but it was quite an ordinary life in an ordinary house, in an ordinary city, with ordinary problems, right? And we've forgotten how to just have an ordinary life. Everybody has to be this or that, or a YouTube influencer, like all these influencers. Influence what? Just live an ordinary life. Nobody needs to influence that. All right. So let's get to, we're almost done. The indigo brow center, or your third eye, the right to see. Your forehead chakra can close when someone tries to tell you what you see or think is not real. When someone lies and keeps things hidden from you, and when development of your third eye is hampered. The greatest need to feel at one with the universe, to be part of a strengthening human development. The greatest challenge is to turn vision into reality, to develop the five senses extraordinarily. All right, so your imagination here, when people tell you, when they shut you down, you know what also shuts us down is religion, with the dogmas of religion, right? And they tell you, oh, that manifestation doesn't work, or visualization doesn't work. Also, you can go quite the other way and have an extremely vivid imagination that is also not very true. So you could be paranoid, right? This is where mental illness lives. And now you've unbalanced, right? So this is paranoia. This is when you take drugs to either enhance this or kill it. That's, you're unbalancing the mental part of your chakras. And then a lot of times, sometimes you're taking those drugs and it actually even affects your ability to survive. All your money for food and shelter goes towards your addictions, your mental illness, for those addictions. Also, this is where your extreme religions live. That's not spirit. Religion isn't spirituality. Religions play with your imagination in that they give you dogmas and tell you, oh, if you don't do X, then Y is not going to happen, or if you do Y, then X is not going to happen, until you believe it. You believe your beliefs live in your imagination. So when you are over imaginative and uh, aliens, UFOs, Galactic Federation, and you live so far in there, you have actually left the earth in some respects. You've really unbalanced yourself. Or if you live in too many video games. Video games are all all your video screen in front of you, right? And you don't have a real life outside of that. You've really blocked your third eye. You've blocked your communications. You really are living all in your head. Nothing's real anymore. Even it's sitting there for 10 hours and playing games, you're ignoring your survival aspects. So there's imagination is one of the imagination and the sex are the most prolific unbalancers of karma. And look, they mirror each other. Look at that, the clock agrees with me. So you have to really reel that in, like what's real, what's imagined. TV, all the media. Look at the people who are uh, brainwashed with believing what they see on TV. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And so I think that we are actually moving from the hedonism, from the bottom three chakras into the top three one. The more we get into technology, the more we believe social media, the more we believe the legacy media, the more we live in this fantasy world. We don't know if we're talking to a bot or we actually do have a friend. We are moving more into the head and getting away from the body. And we can also see that in the increase of obesity, ignoring the body, eating improper foods for the body, lack of exercise, keeping yourself locked in at home, watching Netflix, being on social media, etc., etc., not allowing kids to play outside, right? Go play on your iPad, that kind of thing. Okay, one more. So anyways, how do you live an ordinary life like that? Well, what's an ordinary imagination? Reading, beautiful fiction books. When's the last time you actually picked up a book? Not on your iPad. Actually pick up a book in your hands. Watching beautiful movies, not movies, that are really extraordinary and don't make any sense. Daydreaming. Daydreaming's a lot of fun. When's the last time you just laid in a hammock or looked up at the sky and looked at the clouds and imagined what they were be? What about just imagining what you want your future self to look like instead of being told what you should be imagining? What's your future self look like? An ordinary balanced life, having all the ordinary things you want, people you love, people who love you around you, doing ordinary things, living in an ordinary house in an ordinary, not creating any karma, fixing whatever karma, ordinarily fixing some karma without any extremes. Imagine how peaceful your life would be. Had a good balance in your life. Had a healthy love life, had a healthy sex life, had the home that you could afford. You had great communication with everybody around you. You had a good balance of people around you. You had, your imagination is fun and ordinary. You read ordinary fiction books that, take you to another place, or you watch beautifully made movies or documentaries and you aren't being told what to think or what to imagine. Now, does that really sound so terrible to you? Doesn't to me. It sounds like heaven, actually. All right, spirituality, last one. The right to know. Restraint can, paradoxically, really require a velvet person. By taking away the velvet person's opportunity to develop spiritually or to spread spiritual knowledge, or by subjecting a violet person to dictatorial forces, extra spiritual energy is generated, and this is what creates saints. The greatest need to feel at one with the universe, to feel that everything in life has a purpose. the greatest challenge to be able to replay the big inspiration to other people. All right. So what they're getting at there is either um, go all in on spirituality or not. Right. So when you are all in and living all in your head, so you think of monks, the Pope, um, or like any really the Dalai Lama, for example, right? Well, what do they give up here? They give up having an intimate relationship. They give up sex. A lot of when you get up into that upper echelon um, of spirituality, they actually discourage sex for your kundalini. They prefer you to have, well, what's called kundalini, or like more of a spiritual experience than an orgasm with another human being, right? They expect your spirituality to take care of that. And in some respects, now you've left the earth plane. Now you become a saint, right? Um, but you give up everything below the heart chakra, right? Uh, you because you can't work a normal job, you can't, um, right? The Pope can't go to work and go serve coffee and whatnot. The Pope is not supposed to have sex. But, once you enter the priesthood, you give up your rights to be married and have sex. And if you want that, you have to leave. Monks, same thing. But here's the thing: they don't have to worry about their survival. They're being looked after by their church, and actually their job with action here is spirituality is spirituality. And for you to do that, you actually give up a lot. Now, is that living in God? Is that living, are you being kind to yourself? Is that living an ordinary life? No. And that's what I wanted to show you. There's no sense being, like a lot of these gurus or whatever, and meditate for half an hour here, and don't do this and do this, and unconditional love, and they've got this list of dogmas, and there's just as many in the New Age movement as there is in Catholicism and Buddhism and Judaism. We've got all these lists of do's and don'ts, and you'll never make it up here. Only a few rise to this top to become gurus and saints and whatnot, but they give up all of this. They're still allowed imagination and communication, but you have to give up all of this. And even I say that you give up a bit of your self love because you dedicate yourself to this religion. You don't dedicate yourself to yourself. It's very far from an ordinary life. So everybody who tries to live with all the dogmas within their religion, um, you aren't living an ordinary life. You're living the life of somebody who's living way up here, and you're knocking yourself out of balance, right? Like you think of things just like, it many moons ago, Catholics were not to have sex before they were married. And if you did, you happened to get pregnant, you had to get married. That was the rule. That was the end of story. And it was quite embarrassing to the family and whatnot. And that's because you're trying to live up to expectations that really weren't human expectations. That wasn't really ordinary. It's ordinary to fall in love as a teenager and experiment with sex as a teenager, teenagers to teenagers. And I mean, everybody's been to high school. It's going necking and whatnot, and feeling your sexuality out. That's normal. That's quite ordinary. So to try and make people live way up here when it takes a lifetime to get up there really unbalances everything. So, yes, whatever is ordinary to you. If it feels ordinary to go to the same job and do well at it and kind of climb the ladder and you know, my dad worked at this accounting firm and I want to too, do it. Do it. If that's feels like what it feels like an ordinary peaceful life to you, then do it. There's no right or wrong. Okay? It feels right to you to be a vegetarian, and that's ordinary for you to be a vegetarian because you grew up in a vegetarian home, or it just feels right to be a vegetarian, then do it because that's ordinary for you. But don't force other people to do it, right? Or don't force yourself into being a vegetarian because everybody else is doing when it's ordinary for you to eat beef and chicken and whatnot. So do what feels ordinary to you, and you'll completely balance out all of these chakras, right? So under the spirituality one, what's ordinary for you? Is it praying to a god? Is it praying to the universe? Is it just doing a 10-minute meditation every day? Is it you know, what I'm just trying to think of some of the things we had to do as Catholics. Fish on Fridays. And you know what? To me, that's quite ordinary. I don't mind doing fish on Fridays. Sure, I'll have fish and chips or chowder, clam chowder, or you know what? That's quite ordinary. I grew up like that. That's not a big reach. But if somebody told me, oh, you have to do this, or you have to do that because that's the Catholic way, well, that doesn't feel ordinary to me. So that to me would not be being kind to myself. You know, oh, you got to meditate for 6 hours a day. That's not kind to myself. That's not ordinary for me. That's ordinary for a monk, not for me. So does that mean I'm a less spiritual person? No, no. Do you need some kind of connection to your spirituality? Absolutely. It's right on here. It's just as needy as the survival as food. You need earth food and you need vital life force food. It might be just as simple as acknowledging that you have 7 chakras that need balancing. Boom. All right. Well, I hope that eased some of your minds. I'm getting all kinds of questions about that, and I understand why, because it might be against your religion or perhaps you've never heard of it before. But just, you know, if you're unsure, just ask yourself, what feels ordinary to me? Right? Not extraordinary, not, you know, bizarre and out there. What just really feels ordinary? Does it feel ordinary to have a cup of coffee every morning? Then do it. Does it feel ordinary to have a cup of tea every morning? Then do it. Does it feel ordinary to make this green smoothie out of spinach and cucumber and drink that first thing in the morning? No, that kind of sounds yucky. Then don't do it. As long as it's balanced, right? And you're balancing your body's needs and your mind, your intellectual needs, and your communication needs, along with your body, your activity. That's an ordinary life. So just go ahead and have an ordinary life and watch how everything starts to work out for you. All right? All right. Well, let me know what you thought of this. If you want more information on this, I just don't know what else I can tell you about this. You know, there's lots of information on the internet. I particularly like Inger Nice, Color Energy. She's got all kinds of stuff out. Go have a look at her stuff. She goes quite deep into all the chakras. And if you find that you are kind of unbalanced in some of the chakras, it tells you, it gives you some ideas how to balance them again, like what foods to eat, yellow tips, yellow in clothes, yellow foods, positive, negative. So go ahead and just Google her name. I don't know when this book was. I know it's been around for a long time, 1996, so it's almost 30 years old. So you might have to find a used copy. All right? But anyways, that's where I would send you if you really wanted more information on color energy, on chakra energy. All right, take good care, my friend. See you online. Bye for now.